Hello and welcome to episode 1 in a series where we are going to be playing through Recycling Centre Simulator. So this is on the PS5. It's currently on the store at £19.99, and we'll go ahead and jump straight into a new game. So the format of these videos is going to be for me to essentially play through a full working day in the game itself. So we're going to start with the tutorial, which you'll see there on the screen, and so that prompts us to place our first machine, and this is where I can pop in. Helpful hint number 1 is that the arrows that we see here is going to be the direction that we feed the recycling into the machine, and therefore the output comes out at the front. And as you can see, you can purchase conveyor belts so you can direct these around your machine working area, which is here. But that costs money, and with clever placement, you won't need to, because you can feed your materials into the business end, if you like, here, and the output can come outside of the machine area, which means that transporting it on these pallets and the pallet truck into your storage area is much easier and more effective. So without upgrading the size of your machine area, you can fit probably 4, maybe 5 machines into the starting area. So operation of this, you've got to make sure that you can get to the control panel there in between that, and as long as you leave enough space in this area and your output areas for the pallet truck, you're good to go. So the next step is that we're going to head over to our computer in the office here, and we are going to look for scrap deals. Scrap deals is going to be for us to negotiate prices on different environments that have varying levels of different materials. So as you can see here, the first job that we're going to be taking through has a nice mix of equal amounts of everything. So we've got a fifth plastic, paper, wood, glass and metal. Top tip number 2 is there's always a bargain to be done. You never need to pay full price. So click the bargain button, and a good rule of thumb is to drop it by $20 or $30 if you're brave. And as you can see, they have agreed to that price. We've saved ourselves $30 already. We can't bargain further, but we can agree the deal. And in the top right there, you can see our available funds go down, and we're going to be prompted to go and collect that scrap. So we'll come out of the computer. There are different options on the screen, which we will go through later on in the playthrough. But for the purposes of this video, we're just going to keep it flowing nicely to fit as much into our working day as we can. And that is exactly where top tip number 3 comes in, is that in the top right, just underneath your cash there, you can see a clock ticking down, and your working day ends at 9 PM. So as long as you get to scrap collection sites by 9 PM, then you're good. The clock stops ticking down at 9 PM, but you can carry on. So you can, especially early game, you can quite easily fit 4 collections into a day, and your starter truck here and everything that you get from the start is plenty enough capacity to do that. So you can save your cash that you would probably invest into that, into purchasing more machines. And that is done via 2 things. It's done via cash, and it's done via reputation level. So down at the bottom right of the screen there, you'll see that we are brand new. We are reputation 1 with no progress on the bar at all at the moment. And so the aim of the format of my videos is that each working day also means that we're progressing through the reputation levels, because that's going to open up different options within the game. As I go through and collect cash, you'll see, sorry, trash, not cash. We're going to turn that trash into cash. As we're collecting the trash or the recycling, you'll see that there are smaller items. And in the middle of the bottom of the screen, that's filling up a bin bag or a trash bag. And once that's full, we can't put any more in there. So it's pretty full at the moment. If I go to pick up, I'll probably be able to pick up one more item. If I go to pick up another, that's a larger item and we can only carry one of them. So there's two different approaches that we can take. We can either take these into the van, or we can throw them via the R2 button nearer to the exit there, so that we can essentially clear out the area and then go and fill the van. Now when the trash bag's full, you can't pick up any more, and so you can drop it with the square button, again pick it up and throw it as you would those larger items. That is one approach if you're in a bigger area and you don't want to make multiple trips to your van, but only recycling that you put in the van will show on the top left hand side of the screen, which shows us how much of each quantity of recycling we've collected. So if I throw this wood in, that should increase, and as you've collected everything in that category, it should turn green and show 100%. Idea of course being to collect everything that you can on the site. So we've thrown our trash bag in, and as we go through these different areas, you see that as you get closer to the recycling, it should highlight, and the colour that it highlights is the type of material that it is as well. As you can see there, we've collected all the metal waste. That particular bar has turned green, and you get that nice little noise to tell you that you've done it. So we are going to make sure that we collect everything through to completion, given that we paid good money for this. And if you maximise your day and follow the tutorial, you can certainly through the first couple of reputation levels, if you fit as much as you can into your working day, you should be able to get through a reputation level per working day in game. So there we are, our truck is fully loaded. That means we can head back to the yard to then sort it. So we'll go back to the factory. For the time being, we are going to need to manually do all the tasks ourselves. So we're going to take the recycling out of the van and place it onto the sorter. And this is where filling your bags up pays dividends, because obviously the more bags you have, the longer it takes to unload your van. Now you can quite quickly increase the reputation levels to then be able to employ staff, which will do various tasks around the site for you. And I got to say, having played through separately for a number of hours, you would think with the simulator game, what you're paying for is kind of the, I suppose, the repetition of it, isn't it? Is that you want to perform these tasks and kind of, I suppose, grind through the reputation levels to unlock stuff. And this has got a good balance of that. And the tasks that the workers can do, you can still do them manually, but it doesn't actually take away from the game. It just means that you can fit more into it. So I'll give you an example of that, is that when we get the sorting worker, they will sort the materials, which is the next step that we're going to see. But early in game, you can get slight increases to your reputation level by doing it yourself. but you don't get any increase to reputation level by emptying this fan. So it's a good task to assign to a worker. Once we put the trash into the sorter, we can turn it on, and you can probably see that the relevant recycling bin will be highlighted. We hold the X button down to grab our trash and the directional button to then put it into the correct bin. There is no time limit to this other than your working day ticking down, and if you can get combinations where you put the same sort of recycling into a bin, I think on 4 occasions, then you get bonus trash as well, or bonus scrap I think it's called. So I am going to aim for 100% success here. So just for full disclosure, I did make some videos. I'm not sure that anybody watched them because I uploaded them onto a new channel, and I found that the audio wasn't great. So this is probably the 3rd time that I've played through this tutorial, but hopefully it's helpful if you're just watching the video. And the idea of the channel is to start capturing games that I play. So things that I already enjoy, games, I can capture quite easily on the PS5 and then upload to YouTube without having to do too much editing, so that I can get them up quite quickly. So if there are any games that you recommend or would like to see me play or possibly do a brief review of, do pop that down into the comments, because this is a new channel, and that means that I will of course be looking at all the comments that are added. If you've played the game and you got any hints or tips to pass on, and it'd be great if you pop them down in the comments. And as every YouTuber will tell you, that subscribe button really is free. It takes a second and it helps massively because it gets the videos further up in that search engine and algorithm on YouTube. Okay, so we have sorted our scrap. That will go into different recycling boxes at the bottom there. And currently we've got a paper processing machine, so we took that over to the machine and we've placed it in there, so we can now have a look at what we can process. At the moment we have just the one option, which is pressed papers, and so this is where the next top tip comes in. So what you can do is you can only process up to the weight that you have here in storage, but you can increase the output to the maximum that's possible, which is 100, and you can place that into the production queue. And what that means is that it will automatically run. So every time that you put some recyclables in there, it will process and process and process until it's met that 100 kilograms of produce. So we can place that up to 3 times in the production queue, and that means that we don't have to do this every time. We can just throw our paper into there and it will magically process. Now the only time you wouldn't want to do this is further on in the game you get additions, and that means that you can make different types of products, and so you don't want to just make masses and masses of the same thing, because the dynamic of the game, I'll just set this running while I'm talking, is that you can either, which we will see very shortly, you can either sell either raw or processed materials on the marketplace, which will make you cash, which obviously you would need to progress through the game. Or alternatively, you can fulfill contracts. Now, contracts will specify what that particular company wants, so the type of product they want, the volume of it. And so it's really about how you want to approach the game. Early game, I would recommend that you certainly use the processed materials to fulfill contracts, because you get more cash for that, but you won't immediately have all the machines, and so you can sell the products separately on the marketplace, which I will show you in just a second. Now, in the storage area, the reason that I've moved these over is only materials that you place into the storage area will be recognised on your computer as being available to sell. And similar to the machine area, your storage area will be plenty big enough for a decent amount of the playthrough of the game to fit everything into, because as you fulfill contracts, as you sell materials, it disappears out of the storage area. So in that sense, it doesn't really matter how pretty it looks, but I just like to keep it looking quite clean. Okay, so we can stack some of these. Look, I think you can do up to 2 high. So we now have a combination of the unprocessed materials, processed materials out of here, which we need to get into our storage area so that we can go onto our laptop and we can get paid. So to do that, we can grab a pallet, chuck it down. If you press R1, you see there's a line there, and then if you highlight the pallet and press R1 again, it will move the product to stack it on the pallet, like so. The pallet truck I still haven't quite mastered, as you will no doubt see. I think you have to turn the opposite direction to what you want to go when you're going forward, and vice versa when you're going backwards. And we're going to move that into our storage area. Again, doesn't matter how pretty that looks, as long as you can then take out your pallet truck if you're going to be stacking multiple products, but we'll keep that nice and tidy. So just while we're looking at it, your pallet truck light will turn green as you get close enough to the pallet to be able to lift it and then move it. Okay, we are progressing nicely through the game on episode 1. So now we are going to go and get paid for our labour. The first thing we're going to do is we are going to go to Marketplace. And as you can see here, it's then broken down into the different types of products that we can sell. At the moment we can't process plastic, so we've got just plastic parts. And over here we can see who's going to offer us the most dollars. And we're going to get $4 from Mark for each of our materials, and he will buy up to 22. We have 11 in storage, so let's go ahead and sell those. And we go through our different products. Now, the reason I'm not going to sell the pressed paper is that I could potentially fill a contract, which you can see is actually highlighted initially on the tutorial up there. So we're not going to process the processed paper because we won't get as much money for it on the marketplace. But we will go through the others. And another top tip is we will pretty soon, probably within 3 working days, be able to buy 2 or 3 extra machines. So there's really a couple of approaches we can take. We can do what I'm doing here for this series of videos, and that is sell this on the marketplace so that we've got an immediate return of cash. So we'll go ahead and sell 14 of those. Or we could leave those in our storage ready to process when we do get those machines. And that means that we can fulfill contracts and make more money. Personally, my recommendation would be to sell the products as I'm doing here early in game, certainly for the first 3-4 working days, just to get as much cash as possible and buy those machines. And then as you progress through the game, the contracts require more products, and so you won't necessarily be able to fill them completely within one working day. So it will get to the point where you need to do a couple of days processing before you can fulfill those contracts. Hope that all makes sense. Hopefully it does make sense, but again, if there's anything you'd like to know, if there's anything that I've not quite made clear, I'd be more than happy to respond in the comments, and I will also mention in the next video. Hopefully viewers are able to go through the different videos so that I can find a good balance between kind of the commentary of not feeling like I'm just repeating the same things over and over, because I want these to be enjoyable, but I will of course talk through what I'm doing. So we have sold all our individual products. We are now up to $571. We're now going to head over to contracts, and as you can see on the left hand side, we got different types of companies that do different products. As you can imagine, Pinnacle Paper do paper products, Plastics do plastics, and the number here shows how many contracts are available. Over to this section, they are asking for 10 pressed papers, and the market price for that, should we sell it individually, would be $60, and they are offering $90. That again is a starting point. There's always a bargain to be done, and the only other relevant thing on there really is that you can see in storage how many you have, so we know that we've got enough to fulfill this contract. So let's go ahead and try and push this price up using pretty much the same as we did before. So whilst we wanted to reduce what we were paying, we want to increase what we are being paid. So I'm going to be cheeky and ask for 130. So they're not going to agree to that. So I am going to knock it down, let's say by just $10. Now the bargaining won't go on indefinitely, so it will get to a point where I think after 3 or 4 exchanges you will just have to agree whatever the end price is. So there is a nice mechanic there to not being overly greedy but also not underselling the products. 102. I'm driving a hard bargain today. I'm still going to try and squeeze I think just a couple more dollars out of them. 104. Come on. Just for the sake of it, I'd like 105. There you go. Actually, early in game, it's unusual that they would bargain to that extent. It's quite common, as long as you don't massively overprice it, that they'll accept your offer. Okay, so we've done our bargaining. We can now agree the deal, and that moves the job from waiting to ready to be taken, and we click the delivery button, and that does a couple of things. So it increases our cash, and because it's also increased our reputation level, it's opened up some different options. Okay, so we can then finish the day and the video by having a quick look through what those options are and a quick tour of our laptop here before we end our working day, and I'll rejoin you in episode 2, day 2. So we've been through scrap deals, we've been through marketplace, and we've been through contracts. So one thing I would say is once the working day of 9 PM has been reached, the clock does stop and you can do all your production activities. If you've hired workers, they will continue to work. I I think breaks some employment law in real life. But you cannot take extra scrap deals, and if you have any pending, you've got to get to them before 9 p.m. To be able to complete them. So if you can't do that, then you do have a number of days that you can go and collect the scraps. That just means that that would roll on to the next working day. But the whole idea, certainly for my approach, is to take as many of those scrap deals as you can and concentrate the working day on going and collecting it and getting it back to your yard. You can then do all that production stuff after 9 p.m. The clock will stop, and that's a nice little balance of gameplay to get you through the reputation levels, keep your cash going, and open up those different options in the game. So if we click on store, that's going to be broken down into a couple of different areas. So you can see that we got machines, which will recycle different types of material. We got equipment, and that will become apparent later on. I'll talk about that more in future videos. And upgrades, which the upgrades are more kind of skill-based things. So you can carry more trash, you can sort easier, and you can negotiate better prices. So as you can see, each of those comes with a requirement to reach a certain reputation level. And the pace of that is actually quite good. So you can see that we've already increased the reputation level in just the first day of our playthrough. And with the simulator games, I think that's the good balance with them, is if you haven't got masses of hours to throw into a huge open world game, then you can either pick up a kind of 30-minute playthrough and play a game, or if you want to grind through that reputation because actually it's quite therapeutic to do the different tasks, then you've got that available too. I will quickly... the staff option hasn't opened up just yet, but we'll get to that. So that's probably then going to be episode 2, where as we increase our reputation level, we can start taking on paid staff. So we will finish the day by purchasing our next machine. So you can see that we already own a paper shredding machine. Let's take plastic next, and that will reduce our cash. In terms of the scrap deals, as long as you've got about $300 or $400 at the start of each working day, you'll be able to take all of those scrap deals and keep progressing. So our machine has been delivered. It's packaged very well, that huge machine in this box here. And we can do exactly the same things we did with machine 1, is we can rotate it so that the output isn't clogging up our machine space. Leave just enough of a gap to be able to get to the control panel. And again, just for aesthetics, leave it nice and lined up. So we should be able to fit 3, I'm not sure we'd fit 4 machines into that area, but we can replicate that over here and get another 2 or 3 in. Now the machines, with my final tip of this video, the machines do increase in price. You won't get the organic machine until much later in the playthrough. It takes more reputation level and other things and cash. So best thing to do is, as you do your sorting, have a look at what kind of weight you've got of each of material. If it's not very high, then there's not really any great benefit to selling it on the marketplace. You do need to have at least 1 kilogram to be able to sell on the marketplace. So you can let that build up, then move it into your storage area and sell it en masse. So the organic waste, you're not going to have the machine for quite a while. Makes sense to do that. Other machines, as I said earlier in the video, it's really down to preference. Early game, it makes sense to sell it on the marketplace so that you've got workable cash to buy machines. And then as you start to take contracts, you may not always be able to process enough materials in one day to fully fulfill them. So it's quite often you'll get a couple of days to fulfill them, but you can leave those in storage. And I'll wrap up video 1 and day 1 there by going up to bed, and that will automatically save the game. And with that, I will thank you very much for watching and hope to see you in episode 2.